Hey y'all, one of the reasons you're still leaking is because it's very likely that the same thing keeping you leaking is the one thing no one ever told you about. Today, I'm going to uncover 5 habits that you can stop today that will help to improve your leakage and why leaking is less about doing more or doing one extra exercise and more about stopping some of your everyday habits that are contributing to the problem. So let's get started with number 1. So the number 1 habit is hovering over the toilet. Now, I know this gets tricky when you're out in public because not all public restrooms are clean enough for you to sit and bare bum it, but we got to line those seats, put as much toilet paper down, use those little covers on the seat because how you position on the toilet really matters for your pelvic floor. When you hover, your pelvic floor doesn't really have a choice but to engage because your pelvic floor is part of your core. That's what's holding you up. But when it's time to pee, those muscles need to be able to completely relax so that you can completely empty. So I've even found some clients tell me that in the hovering position, they actually feel the urge to push. And pushing or straining at any point, whether it's pee or poop, is not good for the pelvic floor. This can actually weaken the pelvic floor. And again, if the muscles can't relax, you might also not even feel like you're getting completely empty. And if you're not emptying all the way, that contributes to constant trips to the bathroom and that really strong feeling that you have to pee all the time. So hovering is a no-go. We want the pelvic floor nice and relaxed so we can get everything out, feet flat on the floor and bottom on the seat or a protected seat when you're out in public. The number 2 habit that you can stop doing today is practicing Kegels on the toilet. Now, if I had $1 for every time a client told me that their doctor actually told them to practice their Kegels on the toilet, I'd probably be a millionaire. Practicing Kegels on the toilet, a no-go. You definitely do not want to be squeezing and relaxing multiple times while you're peeing. Again, the pelvic floor is supposed to be relaxed when we're using the bathroom. Now, sometimes I do actually ask clients to try to see if they can shut off the flow. And this is a one-time thing. This is something you do every now and then because it can tell me a lot about how your pelvic floor is functioning. Can you shut it off all the way? Can you slow it down? Can you not do anything? That gives me some good information, but it's definitely just a one-time tool. It's not something that you should constantly be doing because it really confuses the pelvic floor and the bladder. The bladder is what contracts to empty urine out of your body and the pelvic floor should relax. So again, if you're stopping and going, it just sends the wrong message for that pathway between the bladder and the pelvic floor. The other thing I wanted to mention is that Kegels are not bad. I know there's a lot of conflicting information out there. It's like, should I do Kegels? Should I not do Kegels? And Kegels can be very effective for improving the function of your pelvic floor. It can help with the strength, the endurance, the stability of those muscles, but there has to be some guidance of when to do it. Are you doing it correctly? What position should you be in? How many times a day should you do it? And that's part of the prescription for your problem. So everyone's prescription may look very different, and it absolutely can look very different, but you need to have that guidance. You definitely shouldn't be doing Kegels on the toilet. The 3rd habit that you can stop doing today is pushing or straining to pee or poop. Now, if you follow me, you've probably heard me say this a lot of times because it's just that important. I think straining to poop is one of the most overlooked things that actually contributes to leakage and can make leakage worse. So how we use the bathroom is really important because your pelvic floor is involved when you're peeing, when you poop, when your sexual function, as well as it even has a circulatory function. So because your pelvic floor does so many things, we have to look at all the aspects of what it does, and wherever there's any dysfunction, we want to correct it. So straining to pee or poop actually weakens the pelvic floor. It can put way too much pressure on those muscles, way more than they're ever supposed to endure, and that actually contributes to leakage. So we want to make sure that we're addressing any constipation or any straining problems because that definitely will make leakage worse. 4 is peeing before exercise, peeing before your afternoon walk, peeing as a just in case to get your bladder empty actually doesn't help leakage at all. And this is one of those things that logically kind of makes sense. If I empty my bladder, then I won't have anything there to leak. But the problem is the bladder doesn't really work that way. All of us who empty completely have some residual urine in our bladder. There's always supposed to be a little something there. Now, if you have retention issues and you're holding on to a little too much, that's a completely different story. But if you're completely emptying, there's always a little something there. So the attempt to get your bladder empty actually contributes to leakage, and it contributes to the problem of frequency and urgency, because your bladder never really gets a chance to fill up if you're constantly emptying. The other thing about the just in case peeing is that that's not really what's going to stop your leakage, because leakage isn't really a bladder problem, it's more of a pelvic floor problem. So if you want to think about your water hose, when you're trying to shut that flow off, you got to turn the faucet. If the faucet doesn't tighten enough, water is going to slip through. And your pelvic floor muscles are, that top of the faucet that we're trying to tighten. So that's the area we want to address. We don't want to keep emptying the bladder, because again, it doesn't stop leakage, and it actually can contribute to more problems with your bladder. The fifth and final habit that you can stop doing today is restricting fluid. Now, this is another one that kind of makes logical sense, but it doesn't really align with how our bodies work. So a lot of people think that if they don't drink a lot or they stop drinking, that's going to prevent them from leaking. I know when I was a PT student, one of my clinicals was in a skilled nursing facility, and some of my elderly friends would, always say like, no, I don't want to drink anything because I don't want to pee. But in actuality, that actually makes the problem worse. So the more concentrated your urine is, the more irritating that is to your bladder. So you want to make sure that you're drinking plenty of fluids to kind of keep that flow going. It's good to go to the bathroom, and that doesn't really prevent leakage if you stop drinking. All it does is really create a perfect environment for a UTI, which none of us want. And it also creates the perfect environment for those urges to be super strong and for you to get them more often. And if you have a pelvic floor problem, or you have a problem with holding things in, going to the bathroom all the time and having those strong urges is just like adding fuel to the fire. So you definitely do not want to restrict your fluid intake. You want to make sure that you're drinking plenty of plain flat water. That's actually just as important as limiting the irritants like caffeine, carbonated beverages, and even citrus beverages, like all of those irritants that you hear a lot about. It's good to modify those, but it's actually just as important to drink plain flat water. The more diluted our urine, the happier our bladder, and the easier it is to control, or the easier it is for us to have control of our pelvic floor. All right, that is it. Those are the 5 habits that you can stop doing today that will have a huge impact on your leakage. When you start dropping these kind of habits, it makes leakage so much easier to resolve, and it's going to make any exercise program much more effective. So if this resonates with you, please don't forget to like this video, hit subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. And if you want to dive in a little deeper, click the link so that we can schedule some time to connect one-on-one. Bye.